Right, hey guys, and welcome back. So, I watched Swamp Thing, and I wanted to give you guys my thoughts and review on this TV series released by DC. So, I've kind of been in the lack, to find the right TV series, and I'm talking comic related, of course. There are plenty of others, but ever since Titans ended, I haven't really found the right one to continue with. And then I was like, wait a minute, they released Swamp Thing. Maybe I'll check that out because, I do know that Swamp Thing is not going to continue past season one. So that is kind of unfortunate for those who actually, worked on this series. So, and the actors and all that who were a part of it, unfortunately, they don't get to continue to be part of this Swamp Thing, assuming they actually have the enthusiasm for it. However, the reviews of the season one was reasonable. They were not all that bad, and by definition of TV series standards, I felt that this was definitely not bad at all. So I'm gonna tell you straight off the bat that this is like a 5 out of 10 TV series, right? For TV series standards, it's a 5 out of 10. It's a half and 50-50, half and half. It is absolutely watchable if you have nothing else to watch, but it is by no means going to impress you in any particular way. But it was very interesting to see this Swamp Thing from the comics finally come to be a fully realized character in on a TV series, and the actors who played. As part of the characters in this series were all very believable. They didn't overdo their parts. They didn't overact anything. They were very natural, very realistic, except for one or two parts maybe just a little bit weird, considering how when when the Swamp Thing tells this girl not to do something stupid and interact with this darker part of the swamp, she doesn't listen to him and she just goes there, and then this like evil thing comes to attack her. That's kind of dumb because I mean, look at the Swamp Thing, right? He looks terrifying. If this thing is warning you not to do something, you should listen to it. All right, you should be afraid of this thing, and this thing is afraid of something else, which means it's not rock paper scissors. Okay, you are at the bottom of the food chain in this. But I guess she just had to go for them to show us what would happen. But regardless, the character and humanization of the Swamp Thing was actually pretty nice to watch. And then I felt that the actor, of course, the Swamp Thing didn't look like this from the get go. He was originally a scientist who was studying the swamp, and then he gets assaulted by people who are continuously apparently polluting the swamp and contributing to the fell and the rot that is kind of hurting the swamp. So when this scientist gets kind of assassinated by these people, the swamp apparently collects him and morphs him into the Swamp Thing. And it's later revealed to him by the swamp that he believes that he is part of the greater good for the green, and he has been chosen to protect the swamp. So he gains a lot of unique abilities. He could grow plants at will, he can control plants to do his bidding. The power scaling of his abilities are kind of random. It's like when he's very emotional about something, it seems to work. But when he is not sure about what he's doing, it doesn't really seem to manifest. So to that extent, it kind of makes sense. But sometimes he's very strong, sometimes he's not very strong. It's difficult to gauge his ability considering roughly, not too many spoilers, but at the beginning he just wrecks this guy apart by controlling a bunch of roots. But in the ending, when a bunch of enemies come to attack him, Well, you know what? This is a spoiler review, right? Anyway, so when a bunch of guys come to attack him, they use these nitrogen guns to kind of freeze him up, and as they're attacking him to freeze him, he doesn't seem to be able to control the roots or plants around him to use them as a defense mechanism. He's more so just trying to melee them for the most part. So that was kind of awkward. The power gauge of him in combat is not very clear, but the power gauge of him when he's trying to cure someone, especially this girl who he falls in love with, um, he falls in love with her while he's still a scientist, right? And then it turns into this thing, and then there's kind of an interesting reaction when she finds out that he is the scientist. So anyway, when he tries to cure her of a certain disease kind of situation or injury and whatever, he seems to be able to grow these plants at will, but emotionally. So when he's distressed and he thinks that he needs something to help him, that particular plant or fruit or medicine of some sort, herbaceous equipment, whatever that he needs, just grows towards him, and he can use that to help him. So I guess he's very much in the stage of learning his abilities. But aside from that, it is very clearly explained how the Swamp Thing interacts with the Green, and how the swamp kind of gives him all of these unique abilities, and how he's kind of the protector now of all of this war kind of that's been happening between the swamp and the rot and the fell and all of these evil things. But he doesn't know what the Green is yet. He hasn't met the Green. For those of you who are DC comic fans, you would know that the Green also manifests itself into a humanoid like figure. He also looks something like the Swamp Thing, but not really much like the Swamp Thing. It looks a little bit different. Regardless, that is the Green. This is the Swamp Thing, and we are very much we're in like the very beginning of this character's development. But what I really did like was that there was not that much cliche in terms of the romance of these two, right? Normally we get to like see like, oh, when she finds out that he is the thing, and then she doesn't believe it, or she just like doesn't goes away with it, and then when you go and tell someone that I saw something, and then they don't believe you. In this one, it goes through pretty fast. Like, they say, no, I'm not going to believe you until you show me, and then you show them, and then it's over, which is really very relieving for someone who's been done with all these cliches of like, I'm never going to believe you until I get hit in the face by it. So this wasn't that kind of a film. It was a film that got over those cliches and just went straight to the point of the character development, and it was really really nice to actually get to be a part of that. Now, by no means was this in a very good budget. A lot of the scenes did feel very plastic, but the makeup in close-up situations was reasonably good. But when you get enough lighting on it, you can look at how plastic it really looks. And I mean, the Swamp Thing is pretty much one of the few things in the film that actually has these kinds of makeup, because he takes on like two other bad guys or something. But unfortunately, the makeup was just not very believable. Some of the scenes did involve a lot of roots growing and graphics of that sort. Those seemed very basic, but nonetheless they were clear cut, and since they were not makeup, they were fully CGI. They were reasonably clear and well developed, so there was not really an issue with that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, we're never going to see what happens in season 2, so it's a bit unfortunate. But for me, let me just pop the text back up over here so you guys can just have a number to look at. So this was definitely a 5 out of 10. By all means, it is not anything very special. It's an in-betweener. If it comes out on TV, or you guys happen to have Netflix with you, go ahead and watch it. It's decent. I would say it's pretty decent for a low budget kind of TV series. I expected it to be like maybe bad or something, but no, the character development kept me watching the film. There were certain draggy scenes with some of the other side characters which I didn't quite enjoy, because the side characters are not really that great. But I felt that these two, the Swamp Thing and then this doctor who comes from the CDC, these two had a good relationship. They kind of developed reasonably well throughout the series, and I would have loved it if it escalated from there, to a 6 out of 10 and 7 out of 10 in season 3. That would have been fine. Like, if it ended at a 7 out of 10 in season 3, it would have made it one of the best DC series overall. Definitely better than Flash season 5 or for, dear God, I don't know what on earth Iris West is still alive for. But anyway, that is pretty much it from me, and these are my thoughts and reviews. Let me know what you guys think. I didn't want to go too much into the plot and the details because I do want you guys to kind of watch this if you haven't. And I mean, overall, the plot is very very basic, very much on the comics, but there are slight twists and turns in the sense where you don't really have any other superheroes intervening into the story of the Swamp Thing. So there are only like a few, very few comics where it's not about anyone else and purely about the Swamp Thing. And I felt that this series was kind of like that. It was purely about the Swamp Thing, nothing else. Swamp Thing is the hero of this series, and he takes on bad guys, and his threats are pretty crazy because they come in all kinds of weird, scary forms. And I really wanted to see more of those because that would have been pretty cool, as they're terrifying, and you get to be this kind of Hellboy-like villain to, I mean, not villain, but kind of anti-hero, to kind of do the right thing. And as it turns out, Swamp Thing is just a guy who is protecting himself in the swamp, and by nature, he's a good guy. He's a good doctor, kind of researcher, I would say. So, yep, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think. Adios.